I went to UMass Amherst, and I studied journalism and social thought and political economy. I only have, well, I dropped journalism, and I don't actually have my degree yet. I'm one class short, but that class costs $1,000, so I'm just waiting until I have some money.
Americans owe more than $1.4 trillion in student debt. The average borrower carried around $35,000 in loans in 2019. Story Young estimates that she took out around $87,000 in a mix of private and federal loans to pay for college.
You know, when you're 17 and you think of $20,000, if you didn't grow up in money, you don't even know what that means. Like, how big is that? I don't know. I can't even think about it. Then the next year, 20,000 more. Then the next year, 20,000 more. That's a lot to think about, and it started to get really big.
Maxed out on her loan options and unable to pay tuition, Young dropped out of college around 10 years ago. Soon after, she defaulted on a $19,000 private loan that was only recently discharged off her credit. Her father was forced to repay a portion of the loans that he co-signed for, and she still has about $67,000 in loans outstanding.
My credit score is so bad that at 30 years old, I can't get a $3,000 loan for a used car at anything less than a 13% interest rate. That is the best option that I have. I don't qualify for credit cards. I've never had one. I don't know how to build my credit. Getting housing is extremely difficult because any rental company, they require a credit check, and my debt to income ratio is obscene.
Young is not alone. The Debt Collective was born out of the Occupy Wall Street movement and helps people dispute debts with the goal of canceling student loans and all debt in general.
I mean, when we started close to 9 years ago, we were calling for total medical and student debt cancellation and fully publicly funded higher education, Medicare for all. We were told that these were sort of crazy ideas, and now they're pretty mainstream.
The group currently has over 700 people signed up to refuse to repay their loans. Goki himself has around $40,000 in student loans.
I am never going to repay this debt. It absolutely will be abolished. It's not going to be easy. There's nothing inevitable. We need to organize and fight to make it happen. But I absolutely believe that we will win full student debt cancellation. And I want everybody else to internalize that idea.
Even though both Goki and Young aren't paying back their student loans, they're actually doing so in a way that's technically legal. Borrowers can use tools like forbearance, deferment, or a $0 income-based repayment plan. But future legislation to cancel student debt is far from a sure thing, and not repaying can mean decades of hardship.
The income-driven repayment plans, and 3 of them are based on a definition of discretionary income, where your adjusted gross income, if it's less than 150% of the poverty line, your monthly payment will be 0. And that's perfectly legal. You're not violating any laws. You're not defaulting on your loans. It's just that because you're low income, you don't have to make payments on the loan. So 0 monthly payments actually count as payments. And after 20 or 25 years, the remaining debt will be forgiven. Now that is taxable under current law. So you'll substitute a tax debt for student loan debt.
In the U.S., the poverty line for an individual is an income of just about $13,000 a year. The number varies by state and family size, but that means that Goki and Young would need salaries of about $19,000 to keep their $0 payments for the entire 20 to 25 years it will take for the loans to be forgiven. And interest will be piled on the entire time. The growing totals will make buying a home or financing anything next to impossible. Goki knows firsthand the problems that come from not making payments on your loans and says that people need to do what's best for them.
We don't want people to commit financial suicide. And there are many, many forms of non-payment, many of which have no negative consequences whatsoever.
Before the stimulus package offered borrowers a 6-month break, Nearly half of all student loans were in some form of non-repayment, with about 30% of loans either in default, being deferred, or in forbearance. But still, flat-out refusing to pay will not be an easy option. Actively defaulting on your loans will be even worse and carry far-reaching consequences.
The federal government has really strong powers to compel repayment. And besides it ruining your credit, they can garnish your wages up to 15% administratively without a court order. They can intercept your federal and state income tax refunds. They can intercept lottery winnings. They can also garnish up to 15% of your Social Security, retirement, and disability benefit payments. You won't be able to get an FHA or VA mortgage. They can prevent renewal of a professional license, like a doctor or a nurse, you have to be licensed. They can block that. And even in some states, they can block renewal of driver's licenses.
Story Young says her decision was not easy, but she plans to see it through, no matter the outcome.
And I also know if I do get a good paying job one day, that my wages will be garnished if I don't pay. Frankly, I'm so dedicated to this that I'm willing to live a different kind of lifestyle in order to work around that.
Mark Kantrowitz says, unfortunately, the best way to tackle student debt starts before you get to college.
The advice when someone's borrowing student loans is that your total debt at graduation should be less than your annual income. If your total debt is less than annual income, you can afford to repay your student loans in 10 years.
If your debt is larger than your starting salary, you'll most likely need to use an extended income-based payment plan.
And what these do is they stretch out the term of the loan to reduce your monthly payment, but that means you're going to be paying more in interest over the life of the loan. And you're also going to be in debt longer. And these typically end up with a 20, 25, or even 30-year repayment term, which means you're going to still be repaying your own student loans by the time your children go to college.
Invest in you. Ready, set, grow. CNBC and Acorns.